Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. My greetings to you. Recently, I was learning SQL injection fundamentals from Hackthebox Academy. Once I have done that module, I had to apply those skills on a machine. Then only I found this machine called validation. It is actually susceptible to SQL injection, and by exploiting this SQL injection vulnerability, you may retrieve access to its underlying machine. So through this, you are going to understand how lethal a SQL injection vulnerability could be to your systems and network. Without further ado, let's begin. Now you are looking at the Hackthebox page, the machine validation. It's a Linux machine, and you can see the IP address. I already copied it, and I connected to Hackthebox network. So let's begin with the typical Nmap scan. So before that, I'll ping this IP and verify. Yes, it is up. I can see the TTL value. It says 63. So potential Linux machine. If it is nearby the value 128, then you can assume it's a Windows machine. Lesser than 128, little lesser than. Then you can assume it's a potential Windows machine. Okay, fine. Now let me run this nmap scan -sc for default script, sv for version enumeration, on to store the results in nmap format, validation. All right, I give the IP address here, -v for the verbosity and password. Now it started scanning. You may see straight away there are 3 ports open, port 8080, 22 and 80. So these are the 3 ports open. It says 8 ports open, but 3 ports open literally, remaining ports are filtered. The port 22 SSH, it banner tells it's an Ubuntu machine. Coming to 80, it is HTTP. As expected, it's a web server. It banner tells it's a Debian. So you can see the conflict here. So it is potentially a container, some container running some application. So that's why we are seeing this difference. And port 8080, it is actually a HTTP Nginx server. So this is the scan result. So we can enumerate both 8080 and the 80 because these are the web servers. So let's do that. First, I will explore this 8080. It simply says bad gateway and Nginx. So this is the result. I'll try to see this banner. Maybe it just says 502 bad gateway. I think my face is this way. Yeah, you may see this response. It says 502 bad gateway Nginx. Fine. So nothing else, nothing interesting here. I will hop over port 80. So you can see there is a web application, joined UHC September qualifiers, and I can see some input form here, some box to add our input. So let's see, let's explore this. Before that, I will examine this page. You can see the list of countries here. We have a drop down list. Those drop down list countries added here in this source. Fine. All right. Apart from that, nothing interesting in this page. Yeah. Fine. Now let's try to understand its function. I give a value test and the country Brazil. Click join in. What happens? Other players in Brazil test. Now we are test and we are the only one playing for Brazil. Okay. And it redirected us to account.php. If you realize, we were in index.php earlier. Yes. Then it redirected us to account.php. So that's the behavior. And I'll give another name. I'll take it from the drop down list. Perumal. So this is the name. These are the names, 2 names I used before. So that's why. Perumal and the same country. I'm clicking once again. Join now. Now it says 2 names. Earlier I gave 1 name and it appended the current name to the existing list. So again, the same page we are, account.php. Fine. Now we got to know how this application behaves. Now let's try to understand how we can relate this behavior to SQL injection or a database. First of all, if you are seeing any login form or any search box on a website or any place, by giving some certain input, if you are able to grab some data, then you can assume there must be some database at the backend, because database widely used to store various details in an easy way, so that it can be retrieved easily, it can be managed easily. So that's why people are using database. And now what we are doing, actually, we are giving some data, we are inputting some new data. So not only the test dot or perimal, whatever the detail we can give, it will be reflected in the next page. Please subscribe. I'll give this as a value, as a name, same country, Brazil. Click join now once again, and you can see it is reflecting here along with the previous usernames. So what exactly happens? Let me showcase. Here it is getting some details from us for a specific country, and it is adding the data to database. And once we get into this account.php page, it is actually taking the data and it is displaying the data to us. So I think there are two SQL queries sent from web application to database in this stage. Okay, so let me explain how it behaves. For example, the first one, when we are giving the data to web application, how it takes the data and putting it in the database. So let me tell you that the query will be similar to this: insert into UHC, where the UHC is nothing but the table, that is where the username and country details are stored. Insert into UHC, and I am just giving the column names here. One column is username, another column is country. So we have two type of details, username and country detail. So we can choose other countries also. So here it is getting values for username and country, and here by mentioning values I'm able to add the strings. Both are strings actually. So we are giving username, for example, test. So this was the username we gave initially. Then for the country we gave Brazil. Now if you see this query, it's a valid SQL query. What it does, it inserts values test and Brazil into the table called UHC that has two columns, username and country. So this is the valid SQL query. So this query is executed, or a similar query is executed whenever we give this. And what happens in the second page? Let's see that as well. Here it is actually grabbing the list of users and displaying it to us. So what happens here? At this stage, it executes the second query. Select username, because it is displaying the usernames to us. So I'm selecting username here from UHC. That's the table, right? Select username from UHC, where country is Brazil, because it is showing the list of players who play for certain country. Now the country is Brazil, right? So I am where country equal to Brazil. So it executes this command, and when the page redirects, it executes this command and shows the list of usernames who plays for Brazil. Okay, I think these are the two potential SQL queries happening at the backend. Okay, now let's try to understand or let's try to find where we can inject our SQL query. Okay, now let me tell you how we can manipulate these SQL queries, which is requested by web application to database. So we can simply intercept this SQL query and tweak the results we want from the database. Okay, so let me take one username here. I'll give the username Peter this time. Okay, I'm giving the username Peter, and I'll click join now. It tested, it added the user Peter into Brazil. Now let me try this Peter username once again, and this time with the interceptor turned on. Interceptor is on, the country is Brazil, and here I can see the username is Peter country is Brazil. So let me try MD sum this Peter pipe MD5 sum 51 DC30 it begins with and ends with 770. 51 DC30 ends with 770. So we gave the username already. It is actually recorded in the database, and now a cookie is generated. The cookie is nothing but the MD5 sum of this username value. Okay, and here the country is Brazil. Username is this. Let me try to inject some SQL query to the user parameter, because we can control that user parameter here. So let me give this. I will give the single quote and forwarding this request, and again forwarding this. What happens? It still gives the result. Peter single quote. It takes it. So there is no error. If it behaves little weird, then we can say there might be some SQL injection. But it is not behaving weirdly. It takes the single quote as our input and it displays it here. Now we can understand the username field is not vulnerable, which means this username field is not vulnerable. This statement itself is not vulnerable, I guess. Or we can say this country value is, I mean, we need to test this country value. So far we tested this username column. Let's test this country column as well. I will disable this, moving again to the front page, turning it on once again. Interceptor is on. I'm giving Peter once again, join now, and here Peter is not vulnerable to SQL injection. Let me try with country. I'm just inserting single quote here. So let's see how it behaves. I'll forward this. So it is forwarding to account.php, forwarding it again, and you may see the page. It actually gives an error, fatal error, uncaught error, call to a member function fetch associate on boolean where www.html account.php. So it is literally an SQL injection error. So we can say this country parameter is vulnerable to SQL injection. Since it is only having the drop down menu, not a user input, not a custom user input box, the developer might thought this is not, I mean, this shouldn't be sanitized. They are only sanitizing this username box. They are not sanitizing this country because it's a drop down menu. But by using burp, we were able to tweak that input, and we were able to trigger that SQL injection, right? Now, fine. We found where our SQL injection is. Now, what we can do, we can try to enumerate the number of columns. So we need to do that first of all. First, insert some, the quotation kind of things, which triggers the SQL injection: single quote, double quote, closing parenthesis, semicolon. So you can insert these characters and find whether the website express any weird behavior. If it does, then we can assume it has some SQL injection vulnerability. And once you have done that, once you have found that potential SQL injection vulnerability, you can use certain enumeration techniques to find the number of columns and the database details, current user who runs the database, and also the current database. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. And I have to give this username every time and go to Burp Suite and modify the country every time, or inject the payload every time in that Burp interceptor. So that will be a headache. So let me form a simple Python script which will be helping me to automate this stuff a little bit. Okay, so it won't take much time. Let me do this here itself. I will save this file as clobber, maybe SQL clobber. I think that will be the suitable name. It's actually a Python file. I'm saving it. Okay, I think it will automatically highlight the syntax. I'm importing requests library and I'm importing sys library to apply some arguments. Okay, and I'll mention the target URL, and the target URL is nothing but this one. This is the target URL, simple. And in the next one, I will try to call the request library. So let me show that as well. I'm just giving it as the name as connection. So I'm sending some request, right? So I'm just giving it the name as connection, and here I'm calling the request library dot post, because I'm posting the data. If you see the HTTP history, you may understand. I'm initially posting the data to the home directory where I had the value as a data. So these are the things we should keep in mind. So I'm giving request to the default directory, and these are the values we are giving as an input. Okay, so I'm posting to target URL comma data. I'm actually giving some data, so let me put it in this JSON format. Username, country, these are the variables, and John and Brazil, these are the values. So I can keep any value here. So because this value is not injectable, only this country is injectable. So we need to feed this program only with this value. We need not to feed every time this username value, because it is not vulnerable. It can be any value. Okay, fine. Now I'm giving the variable username equal to John once again, and putting comma, and giving the double quote once again, country equal to Brazil. Okay, I gave this like, I gave it like this. Okay, and what is this? What is this error? Follow redirection. I need to follow the redirection, right? Follow redirection equal to, I made a blunder mistake. It is a JSON, so it is supposed to be a colon, right? Allow redirects true. Okay, now it is totally fine. When we execute this, we will get that response. So this is the response, and I'll compare it with the website. When I give this, Control U, so this response is similar to this one. So we got the response here. Okay, and I need to modify this Python script little bit, because this is where our injection point is. So I need to tweak this value often. So in this case, what I can do, I can simply f enclose this and get the value from argument. I guess I made a mistake here. I need to put this curly braces like this. Now it resolved the issue, and I added one more curly brace to close this JSON string. Now we can get the input as an argument here. Okay, so this is the program. Let me give another country. I'll give the country India. Let's say what happens. Welcome John, other players in India. It shows only one name, John. Now we can say we found, we built a program, simple Python program, to give this input automatically here. Now all we need to do is to insert some SQL injection payloads in this command line. Okay, here what we can say, let's say India. I'll give a single quote. It should trigger the SQL error, but instead it is triggering an error in Python execution itself. Now what I need to do, maybe I can enclose this in double quote and give this input. Let's see what happens. Other players in India, it triggers the error, fatal error. This SQL injection error we have seen before, right? You remember? So that error is displayed here. Fine. Now we eventually found a way. We eventually found a way to inject our SQL injection payloads through command line. Now let's try to test this. Union, I'm injecting union. Union is a keyword to unite two select statements. When you are using union, you should make sure both the SQL statement must be having same number of columns, and those columns must be having the same kind of data type. Okay, so that you need to ensure. Now I'm just inserting union and select. I'm going to find the number of columns. So I'll give 1 and I'll give the request. If it is not working, then I will put comma and give 2. If it is not working, if it is throwing error, then I'll give 3 and trigger the SQL query, or I give the request. If it behaves little weird, then I can understand it has the number of columns the number of columns are 3, because we gave 3 column numbers here. So it could be number or it could be any value. Okay. Now this is the concept. Let me give 1 first. I need to complete this sentence, right? So for that, I am commenting out the remaining stuff. Okay. So this will be the payload. So whatever the thing present within this double quote, that's our payload. And I give enter. What happens? See this. Welcome John. Other players in India. It says 1. I'll explain it in the graphical user interface so that you can understand it better. Test. I'll intercept this, intercepting it in burp suite. Interceptor is on. Join now. Here you can see the post request, and I'm injecting this payload here. Union select 1 and injecting this payload. So this is our payload. So this is the same payload we gave here. Okay, and forwarding it once again, you can see the number 1 here. Whatever the value I added here, it is displayed. So which means the number of columns in this table is 1. Okay, that is nothing but the username column. So let's see, let's try to put some other variable or some other function. Instead of 1, I am putting @ double @ and version. It should give me the database version, or the what database we are up against. Here is the result. It says it is MariaDB. MariaDB is similar to MySQL. Okay, version enumeration is done, and let me enumerate for current user. So this is the function current _ user, and open and close parenthesis, and here is the username. So we get our results within this li tag. Okay, li class with text white. UHC localhost. So that is our user who runs this database. Fine. We found this database, the type of database, and also the user who runs this database, right? Now what we can do, we need to find a privilege this user has on this database. Generally, if you are giving access for any user, then you should restrict the privileges that specific user has on over the database. If you are failed to restrict the privileges, then that user may even execute command as an underlying machine. Okay, so let's see whether this user has that kind of flaw. We need to use a variable called superpriv. So let me formulate the query. This time, instead of current user, I need to give super _ priv. So that's the function from select superpriv from MySQL dot user. Okay, where user equal to, let me give UHC simply. Yeah, I think we got that. Joining now and giving that payload. So whatever the payload I give, I'm simply copying this and giving it forward, and it says Y. If it says Y, then this specific UHC user has the super privilege. So now we can check the list of privileges that super user has. So let's try to get that as well. For that, we need to use the function called privilege underscore type. So let's use that. I will be using it here in a command line. So let me use it. Privilege type. Privilege underscore type from MySQL, not MySQL, information schema. First of all, you need to understand what the information schema is. Information schema, it's like an index page, like a telephone directory, where it will store all the information about the database. It will store the list of databases, list of tables, list of columns. So it will store everything, the metadata about the database. So by using this information schema only, we will be able to retrieve the data in SQL injection. Or in a general scenario also, this information schema plays a huge role. Okay, information schema, fine. Dot, then what else? User privileges, I guess. User underscore privileges. Okay, where, no, I think yeah, where grantee, we need to mention that UHC @localhost. This is where we need to mention that. Now we are just trying to get the information, the privilege type of a user UHC @localhost. Shows some error. So I made some mistake definitely. So let me sort this out. Entering some random data. Bob Suite, join now. Here I'm giving this value union select privilege type from information schema user privileges where grantee equal to, I think I need to enclose this in a double quote. Yeah, that's where the mistake lied. Fine, I'm forwarding this once again. Now you can see the list of privileges that this UHC user has. So this is how you should find the list of privileges. Here in the list of privileges, we can see this file privilege. File privilege is very important because if a user given the file privilege, then it is possible for that user to read the file of the underlying operating system. So that's what we are about to do in a moment. And along with the file privilege, if a user has one more privilege, then it is also possible to write certain contents into a file of that specific operating system. That is also possible, I guess, in this case. So let's see. First of all, we have the file privilege. We will be able to read it, and let's try to do that. So here last time I made this mistake. I had to enclose this in a double quote, but I failed. So that's why it triggered that alert. We were able to get the privileges in the GUI itself. So let's proceed with our file read operation. And here I'll try to read a file. The file reading is relatively simple. Union select. The function is load file, load underscore file. And here within this, you need to mention the file to read. I mentioned HC pass WD and enclosing this function and ending this with comment so that the rest of the things follows will be ignored. When I give enter, it says uncaught error. What if I put a single quote? Yeah, single quote did the magic. I was able to retrieve the HC pass WD file content. So by using this, we will be able to read any file that UHC user has a privileges to read. Okay, so this is the thing. Then what we can do, what next? We found that we were able to read files from the underlying system, and next we need to find whether we are able to write any file. But before that, let's see whether we have any uh, user that user to log in, because it should end with sh or bash. It should be having some valid shell, but I don't think any other user apart from root has shell to log in. So the login is not possible with any of these users. Yeah, there is another variable called secure underscore file underscore priv. That specific variable must be empty in order to read or in order to write files on a system, on a file system. If it contains a certain directory, if the secure underscore file underscore priv contains certain value or certain directory, then we can do the read write operation in that certain directory alone. If that specific variable has null value, then we cannot read or write any file on that file system. Okay, now we should find the value of secure underscore file underscore priv. Okay, so that will be our next thing to do. Okay, that secure underscore file underscore priv, it has two columns, I guess, variable name and variable value. And in information schema table, there is a table called global variables. So that global variables has the table name known as secure underscore file underscore priv. So from there we will be able to read the variable value and the variable name. Okay, now let's try to do that. Okay, I will try to modify this query. Select variable value from information underscore schema dot global variables, where variable name equal to this value, secure underscore file underscore priv. Okay, fine. Now the output of this one should give us the empty value. Join now after intercepting it. Okay, and here I am pasting this, forwarding this. Let's see the outcome. It says nothing, so which means there is no error, but it says nothing, which means this secure file priv variable has no value set. So it denotes we are able to write files into that file system. So let's do that. Now we are going to write a file. We already know it's a PHP web server. So what we can do, we can simply write a PHP Webshell. Okay, so let's try to do the same. Union select. I'm just writing a simple PHP Webshell system select into out file is the clause to add a certain content into a file. Okay, into out file where www HTML, and here I can just name this as shell.php. Okay, can do this as shell.php, the name. I think I should enclose this in a single quote or double quote. So let me enclose it in a double quote. So looks like a valid PHP code block. Fine, and I think I'm good to move into out file, and here I'm mentioning the out file where www html shell.php. Okay, and I'm closing it with comment. Okay, forwarding this. I got an error. Union select SQL union select PHP command into out file where www html shell.php. Looks like a valid one. Let me post this shell.php. Yeah, I think we wrote this PHP shell in the web server, I guess. So that's why we are getting this. if I put cmd equal to id, yeah, we got the code execution. You may see this here. We got the code execution. I need to insert this web shell in a fresh page. So let me do it. Let me redo this. I'll give certain thing, choosing one country that I never chosen before. And here I am intercepting it. Okay. Union, I think I chose this. Union select PHP into out file. Shell 2.php. I'll give another name. Or TMP shell. Now let me forward this request. Though it triggers some error, I'll access this TMP shell.php. I'll disable this. Now we wrote this system. We wrote this PHP Webshell, and here if I give cmd equal to id, we are able to execute this. Fine. And yeah, we are able to execute this. Now we need to get the reverse shell. For that, I use the bash one-liner from Pentest Monkey. Fine. Now what I can do, I'll paste this here, and I need to find the IP address of my machine. 10.10.14.31. So this will be the IP. 10.10.14.31. 9001 maybe. NC-LVNP 9001. And here I'm just trying to remove the special characters, so that I'm going to encode this actually, just to remove this special character problem. I'm piping it over to base 64. Okay, I still got that plus, so I need to give the space here and here, I guess. Now if I give the enter, I don't see any special characters apart from that 2 equal signs. Now I removed that also. This is just alphanumerical, and I'm echoing this without any space, and pipe it to base 64 -d, once again piping it to bash. Now I got the shell here, so it is actually a valid command. Fine. Now let me initiate this listener again. NC-LVNP 9001. I initiated that listener again, and I'll put it here. Still works. And adding this, doing the interception, base 64 encoded, forwarding it. I got the reverse shell. Yeah, I got the reverse shell. Now these are the files of that web application. These are the shell files we uploaded, and we were able to see this account.php and index.php. That was the page, the web page we were just messing with. But this config.php, this looks weird. I didn't get a chance to read this file, so let me open this. It actually contains the database credentials. You may see the credential here. The username is UHC and the credential is this one. When I found that etc passwd file, I was not able to see any user who has access to the bash shell apart from root. So what we can do, we can just try to switch to root user from here, or we may try to log in from SSH. Try to SSH as root user with this password. Do we have any luck? Let's see. 10.10.11.116. 10.10.11.116. SSH root @ 10.10.11.116. 10.11.116. Yes. And the password, I'm having it in my clipboard. I don't think it is allowing us to log in with this password. But when I try logging in within this shell itself, from this shell, I think I am able to do. I think I lost that shell. Yep. Hyphen LVNP 9001. Okay, store this somewhere here. I think we lost the shell. There is some kind of script is running at the back end, some kind of cron job, deleting the shell that I am uploading. So that's what happened. No, it still works. It still works. I can see this, but let me try it again. Forward. When I see this, yeah, I got the shell. Config.php. I can stabilize the shell here, but I don't think it is required because we are just going to grab that root flag. SU root is asking for the password. I'm just pasting this password. Nothing happened. So I'll give ID. Now we are root. It actually switched to root. Who am I? I am the root. Yeah. ls-la ls-la, and here we need to find the place where that flag exists. Where is that flag? Probably in root ls-la. Yeah, it is in root.txt. so here is the flag. I'm just grabbing and putting it here, and my challenge is done with this. Yeah, the user flag, I think we can grab it from the home directory. HTB is the user. Here we can grab the user flag also. Yeah, so this is the challenge, and the very important part I need to show is nothing but beyond root, account.php and index.php. So let me see this index.php here. Cat index.php. It has a lot of stuff, but if you see this here, as I said, it is using that insert statement. It is inserting into the table called registration, and the username, user hash, country, and rect time. So there are 4 columns. I actually said that potentially 2 columns, but it was actually a 4 columns. It is possible to hide certain columns from the user. So it is not displaying all the column values. It displayed only this username values to us. So once you logged in, once you registered the user. So that was the thing. And it is actually giving the question mark here. So what it is actually, you can see this function here, prepare. So it is using SQL injection prepared statements. So when you are using the prepared statement properly, it is possible to bypass, or not bypass, it is possible to thwart the SQL injection attempt. So that's what happened here. They used the prepared statement to block this SQL injection attempt in this insert statement, and they are using that bind parameter function to bind these variables with the values that user is giving. Okay, so this is what happened. Then let's move to the account.php, cat account.php. This is where the real problem lies. Let me show that. So here is the value, where it is. Cookie user, select username and country from registration where user hash equal to this. So it was displaying the list of users, right? So it displayed based on this. It is actually put the question mark here. It applied some prepared statement stuff, but still it was susceptible to the SQL injection because of this statement. Select username from registration where country equal to this row country. So here you can see it is getting the country value directly from the user here in this statement. So because of this statement, this SQL injection vulnerability happened. Actually, by using the parameterized queries, by just like used here, if you use this parameterized query in this statement also, then you will be able to bypass this or you will be able to fortify this web application from SQL injection flaws. Okay, so this is the beyond root part I wanted to explain. I hope I struggled a lot while making this video because I was not prepared enough to make this. However, okay, I just tried to explain the whatever the stuffs I learned. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Yeah, I have nothing to say. I'll catch you next time with another exciting one. Until then, I'm signing off. Cheers, and I love you all. Thank you so much. Do the YouTube algorithms. I'll catch you next time with another exciting one. Thank you so much.